Hello, fellow toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 302 of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. This is an edition episode that we haven't done in a while. It's a top 10 going over stuff we've learned with a DOS edition, a focus on Department of State operations, which is really key. A lot of lawyers need this. A lot of lawyers don't handle this, so it's good to have heads up on this. And a lot of people are going to listen to the recording of this, but we're doing it live. I haven't done that in a while either. I had the time to do it this morning, so I wanted to jump into it. So some housekeeping stuff as always before we start. The marriage green card course is coming up. We're going to do it live, and then recording is going to be there. But you want to get in live because you could, talk to me while it's happening. And also, obviously, there's a lesser fee if you pre-enroll. So email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com to get started on that for yourself, for a new hire, if you want to become an immigration lawyer, if you already even do marriage cases. I've seen a lot of times on the listservs, people ask questions that are, you got to know about to give a heads up. So we're going to go over that. Today's actual, DOS episode is really important for that too, because we're going to go over these little nuanced issues that pop up that could drive you crazy. And just a heads up, we're going to have an E2 seminar coming, a test for hiring people that we give out. All this kind of stuff is coming. Stay tuned with the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox and sign up for the newsletter. If you're an immigration attorney or a professional in the field, email me. You could add to the newsletter. A lot of private and good information coming from there that could help you out. I do want to thank our sponsor. Before we get started, Serenade, as you all know, is one of the top technology companies in the immigration field. And not only that, in other areas, not just immigration, they're very heavy duty when it comes to technology related to technology software, and they've been doing it for decades. For what we do, they're modern practice management software for billing and forms and client management, all that kind of stuff, and all into one feature. So it's a software that my firm likes to use. It's trusted by tens of thousands of happy attorneys and paralegals to use it to save hours of time both for themselves and their clients. And they've been reviewed by Capterra as being most likely to recommend best support, best ease of use, best value, and a handful of other awards. So it's definitely worth something to look into. If you want to get more information about them, schedule a private demo. That's probably the best way to do it. I would think so. So go to 1-800-617-4202, the phone number 1-800-617-4202, or email them at sales@serenade.com, Serenade with a C. You go to their website, Serenade with a C as well, and see what's going on there. I wanted to thank Douglas for on the live feed giving a heads up. Good to see you, Douglas. Thanks so much. If you're watching this, wherever you're watching this, especially if, iTunes or something like that, put a 5-star review to help us get the word out about what we're doing. And we have a lot of, again, cool stuff coming about mentorships and the like. So without further ado, let's get it started. Just a heads up, this is not intended for individual legal guidance. It's consult with an attorney. This podcast is really for attorneys. So if you're not an attorney, please don't listen. And with that, as you all know, let's get it started. All right. So Department of State consular processing is something that should be simple, but it's always extra complicated and extra time consuming. It's never as smooth and easy as you think it is. That's why our fees are relatively high on these. Even though sometimes it seems like, well, it's just this, you just upload some stuff. There's always hours of work working with clients to gather documents and deal with the embassy. So I'm going to share some stuff I had to deal with recently, and I have to kind of, change up the names and stuff as always. But some of it's just generic info I want you to know. So the first thing I want to talk about is a big problem that's happening with my DOS cases is that when like an I-130 is approved and the case is transferred to the National Visa Center, I'm supposed to be added as the attorney. So I get, emails from them. Primarily when the National Visa Center first gets the case, they send an email out to the client and to the lawyer with the case number and the invoice ID number. But I've not been getting these emails, which is very frustrating. What they do is they mail the information to me, which is okay. At least I get the invoice ID number, case number. But online, when there's updates on the case, for example, we submit documents and they do a review of it. They tell us either documents are qualified or we need more documents. I don't get those. So the client has to keep forwarding to me. It looks bad. I've contacted them through the NBC public portal to add me, and they say, "Oh, you are on the case. It's no worries." And we added your email. But I've done that twice, and they did not add my email, so I'm not getting it. It's very frustrated. A lot of other people are getting the same. So be prepared for this kind of nonsense coming from the National Visa Center, kind of cutting out the attorney from being able to properly handle the case. That's something we're seeing. So I wanted to share that information with you. Number 2 of our top 10 for today in DOS edition is really important that and it's very nice actually, that on the CEAC website, CEAC, where you could upload the financial documents, do the DS-260, upload civil documents, they've increased the file size that's available to 4 megabytes from 2 to 4. It doesn't seem like much, but it is, especially we have certain countries that have like Iran 15-page marriage certificates. There's always a real big headache decreasing file size, taking away color, making it smaller, all that kind of stuff to make it fit. That helps a lot. So just be aware that they have increased file sizes, so you'd be a little more flexible in handling those kind of cases. Number 3 tip I want to share is that when you're going to upload documents to CEAC for an immigrant visa case, and non-immigrants as well, there are certain documents you need to have. For example, birth certificates and the like, and police certificates. And what we usually do is first we go to what's called the visa reciprocity chart. This is a chart that the Department of State has, which lists how they expect different documents to look like for different countries, what's acceptable, what's not needed. For example, for Iran, if you go on the visa reciprocity chart, it says they don't accept the police certificates from there. There's a lot of immigration lawyers that request their clients get police certificates from Iran, but it's not possible. So I mean, it's possible to get the document, but the National Visa Center, Department of State, the embassy, they don't need it. So it's like a waste of time to even apply for it. So that's why we check this stuff beforehand. Now, there are several countries that have certain listings on the visa reciprocity chart that we dealt with. But in practice, the embassy just disregarded that and still wanted it. So that becomes a major headache because we don't know exactly what they want. For example, sometimes they'll want original birth certificates of a petitioner, even though it's not listed, but more and more, that's a separate thing I want to talk about in a second. But how much, I can't release the embassy names. We just got these cases approved and it's going to connect too much. But in Eastern Europe and in the Caribbean, we had 2 examples of police certificates and birth certificate documents of certain kinds that they said were needed, but they asked. In the Caribbean, police certificates that were listed as not necessary, but they asked. And what that did is it caused, weeks of delay where a person had to be in another country waiting at the embassy, paying hotel fees because the embassy is asking for things that aren't required. So, at first of this, I said Iran doesn't need police certificates, so don't bother getting it. But sometimes it says it's not needed, but they'll still ask for it. So it's kind of this heads up, like, especially if you have clients that have to go to another country for the embassy interview, definitely just probably overdo it, because if it's in their home country, they just need to drive the embassy and back. Okay, they'll wait at home. But if they have to fly to an island and do an embassy interview and get a hotel and have to wait 3-4 weeks extra because of some document, then it becomes a real headache. I wish I could be more detailed about this, but just to be prepared, it just drives you crazy. Number 4 on our top 10 list, check the embassy websites on VPN. Okay, so we got a VPN. I'm not even sure what that stands for, virtual proxy network or something like that. I don't know, but it's supposed to be some sort of secure thing. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just pay for it just to get it for extra security. But one thing that happens is when you have a VPN on your computer, you're using a VPN, I should say, you cannot access Department of State websites. There's a VPN blocker on there. So I was having this issue where I kept trying to go to the embassy website to check to see what the requirements are for certain things, and it wouldn't open up. And I'm like, okay, DOS website's down for a day or two. And then I realized, my VPN is on and connected. It won't let me access Department of State websites. So be prepared for that. Number 5, the embassy, when you have an embassy interview and you're scheduling and registering and scheduling it, there's a US Travel Docs website that you have to go to register it. They just updated that system completely about 6 weeks ago from recording of this. Right now, it's was September 27, 2023. And that website already sucked. It had a bunch of issues. But now, if you had cases pending and you want to access that website, the client needs to re-register or like fix up the password. Big headache. Just give you a heads up that you got to do this. A lot of Indian cases are going to have this issue. And if it doesn't work, you got to contact them. But heads up, if you haven't done it for a while, they've updated the system so it looks different. Number 6, I discovered this recently, but it didn't end up being as helpful. There's a website that the Department of State has that lists what each embassy needs if you're doing like a marriage, green card, or just a green card case. And the website's like list of U.S. embassies and consulates. It's travel.state.gov/content/travel/EN/US-visas/visa-information-resources-lists of posts. That's for immigrant visas. And each embassy has like a list, a PDF of what documents they want and what they're, for an immigrant visa, where to check the doctor out, all that kind of stuff. But I recently discovered there's another list for K1s, for fiance visas. This is really important because each embassy handles their K1 visas differently. Their package looks different. What they want you to do is different. Major headache. So I was really excited about this. So I actually posted this on different groups saying, look, I found a list of U.S. embassies and consulates for K1, K3 visas. Obviously, K3s doesn't really happen. But to my chagrin, chagrin, is that bad? Let me see the definition of chagrin. Chagrin means distress or embarrassment. Yeah, to my chagrin, although they list the different embassies and what they think like the K1 requirements are, when you actually click on the embassies, most of them, or a lot of important ones like Canada, will say, oh, check with the embassy and that stuff. So that's why earlier when I talked about the VPN and visiting the websites, a lot of times for K1 visas, we got to go study and look through the embassy's website to see what their unique requirements are for the K1 visa. And you got to dig in deep to find that. But this other website from the Department of State, for example, I clicked on Mexico right now and the information is there. So it has what Mexico requires. But in particular, I was looking at Montreal. And when some embassies like Montreal, when you click on it for K1, it pops up, a PDF pops up that says the selected U.S. Embassy Consulate has no location-specific information available here. Please visit the Embassy Consulate website for information. So it's one place to look at if you're dealing with a nightmare that is a K1 visa, which I 98% of the time will recommend people not do because it's such a ridiculously convoluted visa process. But hey, that was tip number 6. Number 7, it's a brief one, but I had a client I'm doing a marriage case for, and they had another attorney doing a parent of U.S. citizen case for that same petitioner. And that firm just dropped the ball, and it took like forever for that case to get done. So the client just hired us for the marriage case, but just kept the existing lawyer for the parent case. And then while they were taking so long to do the paperwork, obviously U.S. Embassy in Moscow shut down. U.S., they're not processing. People have to go to Poland for interviews, all that kind of stuff. But somehow or another, they got their green card approved, and the embassy in Moscow approved it. So I'm not sure all the details, but clients said they just contacted them and say, come get your immigrant visa. So I guess sometimes this stuff happens, so I just want to share that. Tip number 8, DOS is adding permission for lawyers to accompany clients to embassy appointments related to citizenship, not visas. But if you have clients that need to go there, and you might have some N600K stuff, they might have some CRBA stuff. Usually prep our clients so they go in and know what to do. But this was announced that they're doing that. So if you want to travel to embassies, it's a lot of time to do that, or maybe you already have an office overseas, beware this option is opening up. Number 9, this just happened recently. Going back to K1s and headaches in the Caribbean, when you do an embassy interview, it's not just K1s, I guess, but they have to return. Some embassies will say, come to the embassy and pick it up. Some will deliver it to your house. Some will say, listen, we're going to deliver it to this postal location and then go pick it up there when the visa is ready, or just return your passport. Now, we had this one client that recently finally got approved after much headache. And they said, okay, we're going to send it to the local DHL location. And the client was like, well, we got to leave this place. How long does it take? And I'm like, well, it's DHL. I mean, it's whatever. Call them to see what their scheduling is. It turns out that location only once a week gets the package from the embassy. So the person would have to wait 4 or 5 days until the end of the week until they get it. So they're like, well, we got to go. Our flight's leaving. What should we do? And I said, just email the embassy and say, hey, can I come pick it up directly from you guys? I can't wait for you to go DHL pick it up. And immediately the embassy replied, yeah, just come pick it up tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. I'm like, oh, well, that's easy. So just be aware that these options do exist, especially if like sending it from the embassy to the postal location takes time and the client's already close to the embassy. Contact them may or may not work. Sometimes it's hard to even find an email for the embassy nowadays. But that option exists, shaved off 4 days of their extra hotel time in that country and got them to get the thing done. So just be prepared for that kind of stuff. It just know all these options exist. Sometimes you just got to ask and you'll get it. And number 10, exceptional/direct filing. So usually I call this direct filing. Now they're calling exceptional filing sometimes. But this is when you submit an I-130 petition directly to the U.S. Embassy. And we had a situation where we needed to do this. And so, long story short, a person had I-130 pending with USCIS, and it was taking forever. They needed to come here. They had a situation pop up that was an emergency. We contacted the U.S. Embassy abroad, say, hey, can we do direct filing? We have this emergency. Here's evidence. They said, yeah, let's do it. And then after I said that, I'm like, wait, let me look at the rules again. And I realized if you already have an I-130 pending with USCIS, you can no longer do direct filing / exceptional filing with the embassy directly, you got to request an expedite, which we had done it multiple times, and they didn't expedite it with USCIS. Major headache. So I was kind of embarrassing after the fact, like, oh yeah, you can't do direct filing with the USCIS case pending. Caught it at the very beginning, but nonetheless, I wanted to share the information so you don't have to go through that. Exceptional filing is possible. You contact the embassy. Each embassy has their procedures for this. It might take a different amount of time to respond to you, but it is possible, but you can't if I-130 is pending. Now, next, we're like, well, should we just withdraw the I-130? Because the embassy said we'll do expedited processing, a direct filing or extension, whatever you want to call it. But I'm like, you know what? You already have an I-130 pending for 8 months. I don't want to withdraw this to have the embassy say no, because you once had an I-130 pending. We're not going to do direct filing, and then we have to restart the I-130 process. So major nightmare. Sucks that USCIS is not expediting that case, even though the embassy was saw the facts and it was good. But these are the nightmares that we have to deal with sometimes, and life-altering things that our clients have to deal with. But I just want to share this direct filing tidbit with you that you can't do direct filing if you have an I-130 pending with USCIS. So thank you so much. These are the kind of little details that exist and much more that we get into on our marriage green card course. So if you're already doing marriage immigration, you can learn a lot. If you're new to it, or again, if you want to train your team, contact me as soon as possible to get involved in the live show. It's going to take several weeks, 2 hours a week for several weeks, probably 6 or 7 weeks. We're going to go into marriage, consular processing, basics of inadmissibility, consular processing, adjustment of status, K1, I-751, really launch yourself into this field. You will get it. So I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Until next one, have a good one. God bless and be safe.